Hello, fellow citizens! I am your host, Jess, and this is your reminder that the weight of the entire world is not on your shoulders, and you can make a difference. This podcast is about what it means to be a citizen and neighbor where you live. For me, that's Philadelphia. There are lots of ways to be a citizen and a neighbor, and I want to cover all of them in this podcast, starting with the belief that citizens should be informed. Because of our current nationwide agenda, I'm kicking off the podcast by examining the candidates and roles on the 2020 general election ballot. Today I'm joined by somebody who I have known for 31 years, my sister Jenn. Hi, Jenn.
Hi. I don't know why I'm waving.
Well, we are going to have the video available.
Oh, okay.
You might just say it too while you're waving. I'm waving.
I'm waving.
I'm really excited to have you on because I feel you're older than I am. And
Yes.
so, I heard you getting into at least the nationwide news of politics before I was old enough to vote. And you've been very vocal, you're like, oh, politics are a thing. Let's know some stuff at least. So that's why I'm happy to have you on here. Are you happy to be here?
Sure. Anything other than sitting around playing with trains is great.
Well, let's expand on that. How do you spend your time these days?
I spend plethora hours building and deconstructing trains and Hot Wheel tracks with my son.
With your son. Okay,
With
I
my
was
son.
waiting for that part.
Not for myself. No.
Thought maybe you were an engineer.
No, nothing that great.
So how old is your son, for the listeners?
He'll be 4 in November.
And you're raising him with the daddy?
Yeah, I guess so.
You have a co-parent, you have a family,
Yes.
not a single parent situation.
No, I have my partner, and he's our son, so yes.
Yes. And, oh, yeah, Brian was on our show before.
Yes, yeah, he was on earlier, and he's more knowledgeable about politics than I am.
So are you a little happy that you were kind of strong-armed to do this by me so that you can kind of have conversation with him about this?
Oh, yeah. I do a lot more eye rolling now, because he thinks he still knows better than me, but I'm pretty good at it.
Good. I'm glad. Okay, so let's backtrack a little bit. Where all have you lived and where are you now?
So I've been back and forth a lot of places. So I was originally from New Jersey, like you. I went to PA, in Western PA, for culinary school in Indiana area for about 2 years. Then I moved to North Carolina for a couple months. Moved back to New Jersey for a few more years to finish school. Went back to PA in the Philadelphia area for Drexel. Then went back home to Jersey. And now I'm currently living in PA again. And I'll probably be here for a little while unless things with the election go very sour.
Then what?
Then we're probably going to go to Canada.
I don't know if they'll take us.
I don't know. They might. I could maybe put asylum down.
Oh.
That might be one.
Can you tell us what you went to school for?
Yeah, so I went to school for culinary my first time in PA. And then in Jersey, I went for nutrition. And then for my master's at Drexel, I went for food science.
So you're very science-minded.
Very science-minded and very much in debt. So that's why I started getting into politics, to understand if they're going to ever give me my money back.
Oh my goodness. So How long, you've been in all those different places. Did you ever vote in any of those other places?
So let me think. When I was in culinary school, I did vote in, I guess it was the primary elections for the Democrats between Obama and Hillary. And I did vote for Hillary at that time. Of course, she lost, so then I ended up voting for Obama in the end, for the big one. And then I voted for him again in his second round, when I was back in New Jersey, and that was like that one hurricane that came by. I forget which one it was.
The
Was it
Frankenweenie
Sandy?
one?
No,
Oh, yeah, Sandy.
was it Sandy? And then I decided to help vote, get people to vote those last 2 days before the election and on election day. So I helped out at the phone booth place for Obama for a while. So that was exciting. I felt very
Yeah.
empowered. And then he won again, so I felt like I did my duty and helped get him the win.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And then I did
So,
the DNC for Hillary. That was
yeah.
exciting.
That's great that you feel like you're in a community where you're empowered and you have the choice to get involved and it's not just like this faceless group.
Yeah, yeah, they're always, looking for volunteers. They're always, every time I went to something, people were welcoming you with open arms, love to hear what you thought about what was going on. And it was nice to talk to people that had the same views and opinions as me.
Aw. That's heartwarming. Puke.
Yeah, that's what I think.
So when did you start voting?
Um, so I did it like 2008, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that I only did it really for the big presidential elections. I think I did one town election in Jersey just because I was like, oh, yeah, I can still vote. But I didn't know what I was voting for.
I
And
think we did that together. I think we went door to door together. We
we
like
did go tour
canvassed.
together.
And
Yes.
then we got pizza.
Yeah, and you got paid,
Yeah,
right?
we got like $25.
Yeah, that's right. We did do that. I forgot about that.
It was kind of scary. Like I'd never done anything like that before, but there was
Yeah.
a lot of people there, so that felt nice.
Yeah, so that was fun. I forgot all about that.
It
Like,
was
oh,
a long
that
time
was a
ago.
long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did canvassing to see if people were registered to vote. That was cool.
Aw.
Um, what was the question again?
You started voting in 2008, but
Oh
it was
yeah,
mostly presidential stuff.
yeah. Like most young kids, that's all they care about. I mean, they don't really care about school boards or like governors or mayors or anything like that. And then as I got older, and now I have a family, I feel like I need to really know what's going on around me. So the last 2 years, the last two elections, even the one like I think it was like last year or something, I voted and it was for, just town people. And, I really felt like it was important to me.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we were talking before we started recording about how like I finally know who is my district person for the General Assembly, but I'm in like the middle of somebody else's district.
Oh,
So, and
yeah.
both of them are running unopposed, so I'm like, okay, well that's who's it's going to be again. So it's nice when you know who your person is and you can see what they've been doing and now you can kind of hold them accountable and find a way to get in touch with them because a lot of those district state people and like you said in your town too, they
Yeah.
want to hear from you.
Yeah, yeah. It's really cool to know like who they are. And then like even when I'm driving now, like after I've done some research, it's like, oh, I saw that sign the other day. And then I see more and more and I'm like, oh, uh, they're really getting recognized, or like people really need to vote for this person, or it's really cool.
That's so awesome. So when you're not building trains, what else are you doing with your time now?
So I've been gardening a lot, especially with COVID. Everyone decided to do their whole victory garden, so I took part in that.
Oh, the victory
Yeah.
garden.
So I just started cleaning it out to get ready for fall, vegetables and stuff. So hopefully that succeeds just like the summer did. I've been canning.
Wow.
Um, I do my kombucha now. I'm doing a lot of like homey stuff.
Yeah.
since I'm home. And so it's like, well, I might as well do something with my time.
Hmm.
And then I also do part-time work at the Y.
What do you do at the Y?
I do member services. So I help people sign up for memberships, help them with getting classes registered, show them, give them tours of the Y, let them know anything else they need to know. I point them in the right direction.
So you have to be a people person.
Yeah, I do. I don't know how I got this job. Brian even says some days, he's like, "You still have your job?" I'm like, "Yeah."
I think you got lucky though, because it seems like the people you work with are like you.
Yeah, they're just as like sarcastic and like, they say what they want to say to ourselves, but they know how to make it sound nice to the public. And then now we have our masks on, so they can't see that I'm like really kind of laughing at them.
Oh my gosh. Oh
So I kind of
boy.
like wearing the masks. It keeps everyone safe
Yes.
and it gives me a good laugh.
I talk to myself a lot when I'm wearing the mask. I just like I'm thinking out loud.
Yeah, I do that sometimes too. And then I realize I'm like, oh, no one can see me like that. I'm just talking to myself.
It's like an invisibility cloak.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's going to
That's
be
why
weird when we stop wearing them.
yeah. Well, I mean you don't have to stop wearing it ever.
Guess
Now it's
not.
like not it'll never be weird. Maybe like 10 years from now, maybe, but
Yeah. I mean, some people come into the Y and still forget they forgot their mask. I'm like, how can you forget your
yeah,
mask? It's
I
like part
have.
of you now.
I'll go out to walk the dogs and I'll get like halfway down the block and I'm like, "Ugh, something is missing." And I usually take them to like a park. So I'm like, I can't go to the park without my mask.
Nice.
So, would you say, because this is common with candidates, they have issues that they stand for, what do you stand for? What are your common interests as far as like committees?
Okay, so any candidate, I'm constantly looking at my big issues are education and healthcare. So I'm always looking to see what their thoughts are of that. I have asthma, so that's considered a pre-existing condition.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, you know, education, for my son, I want to make sure that even, he's not in college yet, but I want to make sure that, our local officials are thinking of the elementary schools, public schools. If he decides he really wants to go to private school, if it's something that we can afford, maybe, but I want to make sure that it's something, realistic, or that it's going to be worth our time, not just
Right.
a money maker. Um,
Wow.
I don't know.
You sound informed. Do you consider yourself informed?
To an extent, yeah. For certain issues, I have strong feelings about those issues. So, like, they're ones that I really
Mm-hmm.
think about every time.
Yeah.
Some don't even really discuss that in their websites, and I'm like, well, if you're not going to discuss that, then it's not really something not one I want to vote for. If
Yeah,
it's,
it's
yeah,
interesting how much some people put on their websites. Like the new people especially, they'll get like pretty ambitious and the incumbents are like, "Well, I'm already on these committees, so this is what's happening."
yeah.
So what about on a local news level? Like you said, you voted in your township's ballot. So do you think you're informed on a local level?
Not as much as I would like. It would just be more of like from my research I've done the last few weeks or something. I don't watch a lot of the news anymore because my son takes up a lot of the TV and he gets mad when you change the channel. So Brian laughs at me when I say this. He'll always ask me, "Oh, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that?" I'm like, "No, I'm not on my phone all the time, or I'm at work. I'm not gonna, if it didn't come up, I'm not gonna hear about it." Just like when we were shut down from COVID, all these people started calling and said, "Are you watching the local news? The governor just declared that all the gyms are closing." I'm like, no, I'm not watching the news. I'm at work. We don't have
Yeah.
TVs around. So I always tell them if it came up on my Facebook feed 3 times, it's something serious and I should look into it.
Wow.
I said if
Rule of
three,
threes.
yeah, that's what I do. I'm like, oh, this is something probably important.
So are you at a point where you have common resources or you're still building up to that?
Um, I think I'm still building up. I mean, you just Google things sometimes, and then like I always usually follow like if I do look up at things, like the ABC News or CBS News, basically. Those are like the local stations. Or I follow our Patch website.
What's
That's like
patch?
it's I don't know. It's like it was on the Facebook, and they have for different towns. It's kind of like a local news, I guess, Facebook page. But they have like websites, and they put articles. So it's like the tap into South Plainfield type of app.
Right.
And so I always follow the Patch every so often. That's pretty local.
That's a cute name.
I
So,
didn't come up with it, so
okay. So jumping off that, how much time do you think you put into research for today?
For today, probably a week. But there wasn't
Oh
a
my
whole lot.
gosh.
There wasn't a whole lot for the one candidate, so
We're talking about two people and you put in a week's worth of research for two
I
people?
guess. Is that too much?
It just seems overwhelming because
Oh.
like there's a lot of positions on the ballot. Is the rest of your research just going to be from the pod? The podcast?
Probably.
No, I think that's great. I think because I know like you're busy, obviously. So when you say a week, it's not like 24 hours a day.
No, it's just like, a few hours here, a few hours there.
Yeah.
So it equaled with that within a week, every few hours.
Because there's not a children's show that's telling you this.
No, there's not, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Maybe that should be your next one.
What's that guy named? Blippy? Blippy should get into this
Oh
talk.
my God. Oh God. You probably have to pay him now that you mentioned his name.
Oh, we'll take that part out. Do you think we're in a good mood to talk about the candidates?
I think so.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes.
Okay. Yes, we are.
So today we're talking about the Pennsylvania U.S. House District 4, which means we're talking about Congress. So I always like to pitch it as Schoolhouse Rocks did that song about the bill waiting out on Capitol Hill. And that's Congress. So that's where these candidates, that's where they go in D.C. If we were talking on the state level, then that's the capitals of the states, but we're talking about Congress. So if you go to the vote411.org website, they say Congress, the legislative I messed that up. Congress, the legislative branch of the federal government, is composed of two houses. All bills must pass the House and Senate and be signed by the President. The U.S. Constitution requires that the House of Representatives be composed of elected representatives, also called congressmen and congresswomen, from each state. There are 435 members of the House of Representatives. The number of representatives from each state is proportioned according to its population, with 18 representatives from Pennsylvania. A U.S. representative must be at least 25 years old, have been a citizen of the United States for the past 7 years, and be an inhabitant of the state they represent at the time of the election, which I think is really interesting. It's not like, well, how long before the election?
Yeah.
Anyway, the House is also responsible for impeaching federal officials. The Senate would then try that case, and electing the president if there is a tie in the Electoral College. The term is 2 years, and the salary is $174,000. How many people are we talking about today?
2.
Okay. So I'm going to introduce them, and then Jen will deep dive. I'm going to start with the incumbent. Her name is Madeline Dean. Her education is listed as a BA from LaSalle University, a JD, which we know is a degree in law, from Widener University. She also attended University of Pennsylvania Fels School of Government, which focuses on public policy and public management. Her qualifications on Vote 411 are listed as local township committee person, state representative for Pennsylvania District 153 from 2012 to 2018, and then she was the Pennsylvania District 4 Congresswoman from 2019 to 2020. She's also a member of Financial Services Committee and the Judiciary Committee. There's a bunch of committees in Congress so that people can kind of like narrow down their focus and their activities. So then we had to combine our resources. So we're getting everything, like the bulk of it, from Vote 411 and Ballotpedia. So to introduce Madeline Dean, she was born and raised in Glenside, Pennsylvania. Like I said, she's a graduate of LaSalle University and Delaware Law School of Widener University. She practiced law in a small Philadelphia firm and with the Philadelphia Trial Lawyers Association, eventually serving as executive director. Madeline returned to LaSalle University teaching composition, persuasive writing and rhetoric, business writing, legal writing, and ethics for 10 years before serving as Abington Township Commissioner and then in the Pennsylvania State House. Madeline and her husband, P.J. Cunane, live in Jenkintown, Abington Township, and have 3 grown sons. And her campaign page says, Madeline is a mother, grandmother, professor, lawyer, and advocate representing Pennsylvania's 4th Congressional District of Berks and Montgomery counties. Congresswoman Dean is an outspoken leader who champions priorities such as strong education systems, equal access to health care, gun violence prevention, clean water, and combating climate change, and ethical governance. So, you did the deep dive on these candidates. That's why I like having guests on. Do you have a nickname for this candidate?
Mad Dean.
Whoa. What can you tell us about Mad Dean?
Yeah, so that's the name she goes by. Her campaign page is called Mad 4, the number 4 PA, which I think is crazy. It sounds like a hate website.
Yeah.
Like it's against her, but that's her website. So yeah, like you said, Dean has a long political history already, as opposed to, our opponent that we'll talk about later. Like you mentioned, she served 7 years in the PA House of Representatives for District 153 from 2012 to 2018, and is currently serving in Congress for District 4, which is mostly a majority of Montgomery County and a very small sliver of Berks County. Governor Wolf even appointed her to the Pennsylvania Commission for Women in 2015, which advises the governor on policies and legislation to improve the lives of women and their families. From what I've read and researched, Dean is all for equality. And it's probably the main reason why she ran for Congress. What I found interesting was that she originally was running for a Democratic nomination for lieutenant governor, but then pulled out when the districts were redrawn in 2018, and she decided to run for the newly redrawn District 4. And there was an article I found on Penn Live that has a statement from Dean in which I feel it was the main reason she decided to run for this position. And it says, Pennsylvania sends 2 senators and 18 congressmen to represent us in Washington, and not one of them is a woman, Dean said. We have a Republican-controlled Congress that isn't going to that's doing its part to hold Donald Trump accountable. A majority that is undermining the education of our children, a woman's right to choose, and a delegation that refuses to support common sense gun safety measures. So apparently, there hadn't been a female representative in PA since 2014, when Representative Allison Schwartz from District 13, God, it sounds like a Hunger Games thing, had retired. So Dean went on to win her district, my district, by 63.5% against Republican Dan David. So that was like a big win.
Yeah.
And Dean ended up being one of 4 women elected that year in PA. So that was pretty monumental, from not having a female since 2014. And then since her time in the state legislature, she has founded and served as a co-chair for PA Safe Caucus, which is dedicated to ending gun violence. It was formed after Sandy Hook shootings. And in fact, her first bill that she ever introduced was HR 869, the Undetectable Firearms Modernization Act that addresses raising this is a lot of reading, which addresses the rising threat of plastic guns that are printed by 3D technology, and it prohibits the possession of any firearm that is undetectable on any airport level detection devices.
I think that is like the craziest thing, that these are 3D printed guns.
Yeah, that's like one of the big things apparently.
Wow.
Yeah, so her big shtick is gun safety and female equality.
That's always nice to see as a woman who's voting. Any other thoughts?
That was all I had from Dean, but I mean, anyone.
She stands for healthcare and education, which you pointed
She does.
out.
She does. Yep, she's all about that. She's all about, keeping the Affordable Care Act. And then with education, she wants to make sure that, everyone stays educated and everyone has the right to get the right proper education that they deserve. And then, I mean, anyone named Mad Dean be right there, be like who you should vote for, I guess. I mean, I'd be scared not to vote for her.
So the interesting part about this is we went to vote411.org, and that has a response from Madeline Dean. It doesn't have a response from her opponent. So we're going to get a little bit information about her from the horse's mouth at Vote411. You have that pulled up?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so are you cool if I'll read the questions and you read the answer?
Okay, do I have to sound like her? Because I don't know what she sounds like.
No, I don't know what she sounds like either,
okay.
So she might sound like you.
Okay, good.
So question number 1 says, what would be your top priorities as a U.S. representative over the next 2 years?
So number 1 is ensuring that there is universal health care for all Americans. Healthcare should be a right in this country, and that means high quality and affordable health coverage for all, including a robust public opinion. Oh, yeah. Option. A public option. And we must ensure that basic health coverage includes mental health services, addiction treatment, and women's reproductive services. Number 2, ending gun violence. By enacting legislation that requires universal background checks, closing the Charleston loophole, banning assault-style weapons, extreme risk protection orders, and other common sense reforms that will save lives. And number 3, ethical good government, not only acting with purpose, but also being transparent, accountable to our constituents, and serving others.
Oh boy. So I just Googled the Charleston loophole.
Okay, good, because I was like, whoa, I didn't see that part before.
So if you just do a super basic search of it, the first thing that comes up says The Charleston loophole allows gun dealers to sell guns without a background check in cases where the FBI fails to complete background checks within 3 days. Under current law, when those background checks are not completed within 3 days, applicants are automatically cleared and allowed to buy guns. What?
That's the loophole.
Oh my. Okay. This is Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It's a big place, I guess. All right. And we know she's, making an effort towards this because of that bill you talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, question 2. The landmark Shelby v. Holder decision overturned protections in the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that required certain states and local governments to obtain federal preclearance before implementing voting laws or practices. Since then, the U.S. has experienced a surge of legislation that makes it more difficult for many people to vote. What voting reforms do you see as essential to making U.S. elections accessible and secure? And we talked about Shelby v. Holder before, but short story is that Shelby, Alabama wasn't doing their best in letting everybody vote, and they were like trying to strong arm people and be like, we don't want you to vote. And there was already this Voting Rights Act of 1965 that Shelby was on this federal preclearance list where they had to talk to the government about changing any of their voting rules. And they were like, we're done being on this list. This is outdated. We don't think that this pertains to us anymore. And so it went to U.S. Supreme Court, and the majority said, yeah, you're right. We're not going to hold you or anybody accountable anymore on this list. So, Madeline Dean, what voting reforms do you see as essential to making U.S. elections accessible and secure?
We must sign H.R. 1 into law. The bill would create a national voter registration program, make Election Day a federal holiday, replace partisan gerrymandering with nonpartisan commissions to draw electoral lines, and limit efforts to purge voting rolls. It would also allow for early voting, same-day registration, and restore voting rights to ex-felons.
Yeah, I think a lot of people want Election Day to be a federal holiday. You shouldn't have to, move
Take
around
off work.
your schedule.
Yeah.
So that's, some people have said if this was a federal holiday, you'd get the day off to go and vote, and you would get paid for that day off. Like, heck yeah, I want to do that. I mean, I hope that if everybody has the day off, they'll go to the poll.
That's what you would hope, but who knows?
Assuming
people might
that
use it
they're
to sleep all day.
Yeah. Because that's the hard part, is like you need the time to do this research. So depending on what your job is, if you're working 40 hours a week and you have a family, you might not be taking the time to do that research. So
I don't know.
And you know what? Ex-felons live here too, and now that they're out of jail, they have to live in the same world that we do. So, not trying to get biased, but this is a free country. So I'm just going to say my opinion. I think ex-felons need voting rights just like everybody else. Boop. Question number 3 on vote411.org. How would you go about finding consensus and reducing gridlock in Washington, D.C.?
I have several bills that I have either introduced or co-sponsored with my colleagues across the aisle. By focusing on the issues our constituents want and need, like clean water, addressing student debt, combating the opioid epidemic, and providing relief in the wake of the COVID-19, there is much to be accomplished across party and state lines. I also serve as the vice chair for the Bipartisan Women's Caucus. This committee works to advance women and family issues in the collaborative setting. We have addressed equal pay, supporting our military families, and international women's rights.
Okay, there's Mad Dean.
Mad Dean.
Get mad. So she's the incumbent. and she has a candidate running against her. So now we're going to talk about Kathy Barnett, who is a U.S. Army veteran. So, like we said, she didn't fill out the Vote 411 page. Her team didn't, which isn't anything against her, because it was the same with Mad Dean. Her team didn't send anything to Ballotpedia. That's fine. Like, they both have campaign pages. It's just that those two sources tend to, like, ask questions. So sometimes they're not staged answers. They're a little bit more in-depth. So as far as her education, it says that she graduated from Fontbonne University, and she has her bachelor's from Troy State University. She served in the U.S. Army. So I have a little bio for her. This is from her campaign page. Appearing regularly on national TV and radio, Kathy Barnett's first book, Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain, Being Black and Conservative in America, explains why liberal policies have failed the Black community time and time again and will fail the larger American community as Democrats rush to the hard left of the party. She is a veteran, a former adjunct professor of corporate finance, sought-after conference speaker, as well as a conservative political commentator. Kathy has decided to take on Washington, D.C., and is running for U.S. Congress for the 4th Congressional District. She served her country proudly for 10 years in the Armed Forces Reserves, where she was accepted into officer candidacy school. Her corporate career includes working with 2 major financial firms and in corporate America. Kathy sat on the board of a pregnancy crisis center for 5 years. Perhaps her most cherished opportunity to date, besides being a wife, is the ability to homeschool her 2 children. They just started their 6th year of homeschooling. Kathy lives in the Huntington Valley, Pennsylvania area. And Jen, you have more for us?
I have a little bit more. Doesn't have a lot of history, so it was kind of hard to find a lot about her.
Pertaining to, like, politics.
Yeah, she has no real political background, unlike Mad Dean. She was not born locally. She's apparently, on her page, it says she grew up in a pig farm in South Alabama, or Southern Alabama, below the bottom rung of the economic ladder, which is what she puts on her website.
Yeah, she says that a lot.
Yeah, she really is pulling at those heartstrings. And another Debbie Downer is that, I don't know if you want to get into this, she puts in there that she's a byproduct of a rape.
Yeah.
It's like,
I didn't see that portrayed, like, in her issues, so I was like, I don't really know why.
Well, she's very anti-abortion, so I guess.
Oh, right, she is.
You know, one of the reasons, but it's like, man.
Well, but she's more so against it because she claims abortion uses taxpayer dollars, and she doesn't want to use taxpayer dollars to end a life.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that was like the blurb underneath that. So
I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, we're trying to stay unbiased and just give you some facts. Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Just take that out. Yeah, so let me see, what else did I have about her? Yeah, she was like the first in her family to complete college. Like you said, I had to go on her LinkedIn page to kind of pull some things out. Yeah, she has her BS in finance from Troy State, like you said, her MBA from Fontbonne University. I don't know if I said that right. And she became a radio show host for a Fox affiliate radio station in Philadelphia in 2014 to 16, after serving her 10 years as a financial and administrative specialist in the Army Reserves.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know where she served that exactly.
That makes sense now. Yeah.
And then she became a political commentator on Fox News from 2016 till the present day, and she is her own author.
She's her own author.
Her own author of this book.
Yeah, we got to get our hands on this. That's going to be the first book of the Fellow Citizens Book Club. I'm really interested.
I think I'll have Brian read that one.
I think this is a great time to go to the Ballotpedia because...
Okay.
And we're really... It's hard. I don't want to like make fun of anybody. We're trying not to be biased, but this doesn't have anything to do with her issues. But I just want to point out that they ask on Ballotpedia, is there a book that you would recommend to somebody who wants to understand your political philosophy? And she points out her own book.
Nothing like plugging in your own profits, right? It's like, hey, buy my book.
Buy my book.
Buy my book.
But yeah, I mean, like we said, we haven't read the book, so, you know, we're not saying it's bad or anything.
Isn't. It's just,
yeah,
you're a candidate. You shouldn't be, like, peddling your goods.
Oh, gosh.
Why did you ask me on here?
So, we already heard a little bit about herself.
Mm-hmm.
She says that her whole life has really been preparing her for this role. She really believes that she is the American dream.
Yeah.
And she just wants this opportunity for everybody. So, let's talk about her 3 key messages. What are the main points you want voters to remember about your goals for your time in office?
All right. I'm running for Congress because as a wife, mother, veteran, and American, I want to secure and preserve my country for the next generation. I am running for Congress because we can do better than the abject policy failures of my opponent and the Democratic Party. Our nation is in trouble. Mob rule and their knee-jerk emotions now have a direct pipeline to the creation of laws and policy, which jeopardizes all of our liberties. Our, and I quote, leaders, end quote, have been found lacking moral courage and a backbone. China needs to pay for what they've done to our nation and the lives COVID-19 have ravaged. We need sensible infrastructure, spending bills that is not heavy laden with political agendas, but works to create sustainable jobs.
Yeah, so this goes back to what we were talking about. Like, I'm not trying to make excuses for the current people in Congress, but this is the kind of attitude that makes me concerned that if she does get to Congress, does she really know what to expect? Like, if you track any bills, you'll see how long it takes for bills to get through because somebody has to sponsor a bill, somebody has to write it up, and then you get everybody to vote on it, and then you might just be asked to like amend it, and then everybody votes again. And so, you know, with that kind of schedule, things get backed up and things take a while. So I don't know if that's maybe what she's referring to when she says that there's no moral courage or backbone, but I hope she understands what she's getting into.
Yeah, there's like a process. It doesn't take a day to change things.
Yeah, and like I think we're in agreement that, and like I've said before when I was reviewing other people running for different offices, why start all the way at Congress?
Well, that's what confused me. She has no political history at all. Like, you
if
kind
she's
of don't
from
you
finance,
start from the
why didn't she
up?
run for state treasurer? Or like, right? I don't.
Maybe she thinks she's too good.
I guess she's just trying to like change course.
I mean, Trump was a TV host and became president, so I guess she could do it.
Just a TV host. Oh boy.
A billionaire TV host.
Oh,
she's a radio host, so maybe she thought it was like the same. I don't know.
The next question on Ballotpedia says, what areas of public policy are you personally passionate about? And I feel like this kind of hints at like which committees she would go for.
Yeah. I am personally passionate about all things that preserves America. Law and order, reopening business, and creating economic opportunities for all.
Okay.
That's not bad.
No, I mean, everybody wants to hear that. It would have been nice if she expanded, but
Yeah,
that's
it's kind of
okay.
cut and dry.
Yeah, I think there's more on her campaign page.
Yeah, I think there were. Let me see if I can pull it up.
So we're talking
Uh,
about law and order, reopening business, and creating economic opportunities.
yeah. Um,
So she talks on her issues page. She's got like 8 major points, and the first one is about safety.
oh, on the issues page, right?
Yeah, so she
Um,
says
yeah.
protect our communities, support our police departments with enhanced training and equipment. Yeah, they need more training. I don't know if they need more equipment. Okay, in my mind, I'm like, let's get like those little guns that shoot beanbags. Because those things are vicious.
They're gonna be
Let's do
expensive.
that. Beanbags?
They're gonna have to go pick it up.
Oh, they gotta pick it up.
If they
Maybe
don't pick it up, then they're
paintball.
gonna have to get a new one. That's
Let's
gonna get
do
expensive.
paintball.
Oh, that's not bad. Then people are gonna sue you because you stained their clothes.
Oh my goodness. Hold individuals and organizations who promote violent riots accountable. Well, yeah, if you can prove who's accountable for it, sure. Do you want to read the... Are you there yet? Do you want
Yeah,
to read
I'm
the other
there.
ones?
Yeah, support the constitutional right of citizens to own firearms while encouraging safety and storage training. And
Yeah, she's very much for the
she's
firearms.
pro guns and um, very much supportive of police, which is fine.
Yeah, I'd be
Um,
curious because she says the right of citizens, and then she says encouraging safety and storage
it's
training.
very confusing with what she thinks about, with what she tries and portrays, because I get different views from her.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then the last one is secure our borders to reduce human trafficking, drug smuggling, dangerous gang activity, and terrorism.
Yeah, I mean, if she can admit that there's human trafficking in America amongst American citizens, then I'm all for somebody, you know, putting the hammer down on that. But don't come say, like, I'm just going to stop. I don't want to get in hot water. But
That's another
does she
podcast.
say, yeah, does she say on here about the businesses?
So I know she was talking all about, let's see, where was it? Um,
There's this one that says taxes and spending. It's our
yeah.
money.
No, I don't think that's what it
That's not really about
was.
businesses. It just says
No.
oppose tax increases that hurt individuals, families, and small businesses.
Um,
Were you able to look into the opportunity zones?
I don't know if that's what I looked at. No, is that the one? No, I was looking at the one that reopened PA. That wasn't it.
She has like
Opportunistic
100.
investing.
You have like 100 tabs open.
Yeah.
This is what happens. All right, girl, read what you've got.
All right, let's see. Democrats and their muscle memory. Is that what it was? No, I don't. No, I don't think that was it.
See, this is the process of researching your ballot.
Yeah.
You go down a rabbit hole. So I was looking at the bottom of her issues page, it says, give a hand up, not a hand out to those who are marginalized. And she talks about Senator Tim Scott's Community Opportunity Zones, which is it's a highly debated program because there's apparently over 8,000 designated community opportunity zones, and this program was brought up in 2017, but it's only recently been established and active because it takes time to go through this whole process and then build up whatever it is you want to benefit the area. So basically, and this is one of the arguments that Trump is saying, that he has done well for the Black community and the low income community and people under the poverty line, because Senator Tim Scott's idea behind the crime opportunity zones is that if you brought business to low income areas, these opportunity zones, then you would get a tax cut. But the biggest question was like, okay, but what's going into these opportunity zones? Because if you're going to be putting like fancy gyms and housing that nobody can afford, then it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but what did you find?
So let's see. What she wanted to invest our money in was more or less, let's see. I know she was like really against Dean was trying to expand the welfare to Main Street America and thus accelerating our dependency upon the government. And so she says Barnett says it's anything but a restoration. It sounds pretty. Government dependency is not a long-term solution for a free nation. Business owners and workers I speak to no longer want to sit on the sidelines. They want a fighting chance to save their means of securing the necessities of life. They're smart, innovative, hard workers, and we are not stupid. We can learn and adapt to safely reopen our nation. That was something I saw. I know, like, her big thing is like she's very much against like handouts. Like, people should work hard for what they get.
Right.
And it's like, that's fine and dandy, but some people can't, like there's certain things you can only get so far by with.
Right.
Yeah, so she's like, having experienced extreme poverty, I can attest to the greatest way to eradicate poverty and lack is to give somebody a job, not another program. And it's like, can only give so many McDonald's jobs to people.
Yeah, this minimum wage
Yeah.
that isn't a cost of living.
No. So yeah, and then she's all about manufacturing capacity back home. So like creating new supply chains for manufacturing goods, pharmaceuticals, and medical supplies in the U.S. To create financial incentives to bring overseas infrastructures back. And creating private-public financial opportunities to invest in our infrastructure, like our roads, railways, and waterways.
So do you think it would be like the worst decision in the world if she won this?
I mean, it wouldn't probably be the worst, but I don't think she'd get very far. I mean,
damn.
Some of her thoughts are just ones that aren't top priorities right now, I don't think. I don't know.
It's interesting. I think, yeah, it's good that she's ambitious.
Yeah. I don't know.
She's another one of these people. I've seen a lot of these candidates say, I will never become a politician.
Oh, that was her big thing on there. She's like, I am not a politician.
Oh, she made it very clear that she would, if she gets this position, she will only serve 2 terms.
Oh, she did?
Mm-hmm. Because another thing that people have been talking about is term limits.
Yeah.
And so she said, you have my word, I'll only ever serve 2 terms, no more than that. Because she thinks that it shouldn't be
else.
I hope so. If she's good at it, and doesn't just fade away, which is really an interesting, like, kind of backwards way to go. It's like, I'm gonna start at Congress and work my way down. It's like, no.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, because that's the funny thing is, like, if anybody saw you in Congress, they would call you a politician. So whatever. I'm sure like it means it's a different definition to everybody, so that's fine. If this is her saying it'll always be for the people, then that's nice to hear. We just have to see it happen.
Yeah. I hope it's for all the people, not just certain ones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because so she says it in Ballotpedia. What are your thoughts on term limits? and
Oh, okay, that
committed
was
to
it.
2 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives. She specifies that. People get,
So maybe she's thinking she'll be president next.
she says one of the many problems we have with our elected officials is that they get into office and die in office.
Wow, that's intense.
Oh my. It's just like the things these people decide to say. Like,
Exactly. It's like, should you be
you
saying
you
that?
wrote this, so you had the time to decide what to eventually send.
I mean, she's not beating around the bush here, I guess. Not afraid of that. Wow.
Do we want to go over the last question on Ballotpedia?
Sure.
Is there a story that you've heard from residents in your district that you found particularly touching, memorable, or impactful?
Where'd you find that one?
On Ballotpedia.
Oh, on the bottom. Okay.
Yeah.
I hear stories on an almost daily basis from constituents who want to get back to work. COVID-19 is a serious virus, especially to those with a compromised immune system. While we must implement measures that continues to mitigate the spread of the virus, we cannot decimate people's ability to earn a living, provide for their families, and build towards their future. Unfortunately, because of our political leaders, because our political leaders have politicized the virus, good people don't know what is real and what is manipulation, making it difficult for them to know what to do next. We need better leaders representing us. Their stories and tears have solidified just how much control our government have in almost every single decision we make. It has reinforced the need to make sure we have, and I quote, good legislators representing what's in our best interests. Wow.
Yeah, and like one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast was just like as one source of your condensed research. And so she says, there's people who are getting confused about what to believe.
Which I understand.
But I think that confusion is mostly coming from a nationwide level.
Yeah.
And that's me making an assumption, but I just think it's really important to get local. So that's why I'm really glad that you did this with me today. Are you relieved?
Yeah. Yeah. Very much so.
You did it. We talked about all of 2 candidates that you researched for a week.
Hey, that was a lot. I didn't want to screw it up. People are counting on me.
It's true. No, I totally get that. And I think that it's valid to feel that pressure, especially this year.
Yeah.
But that'll be the good thing is I hope that you'll come back on after the election and we can talk about which of these candidates won, and we'll keep up with what they're doing during their term.
That would be good. Yeah, to like really see if they are doing what they said.
Yeah. And especially like because Madeline, like she's seeing bills that are currently in the process. Some things aren't done yet. So she'll, if she is reelected, can continue that work. And if it's Kathy, then it'll be really curious to see like where does she start and where does she go. And these are both older women. Like they're not our age. So I don't see them being like active on Instagram or Twitter, but
I mean, they're supposedly on there, but I don't know if it's them or not.
Right. I think they're both on Facebook.
Yeah.
So we'll keep up with them. So
have
now
a
that
tea party.
Yes. Oh. You're our resident District 4 expert now.
Oh yeah.
So now that we're done talking about the candidates, we're going to get chatty about what it means to be neighborly these days.
Oh boy.
It's hard. We're in a pandemic. You have restrictions. But where do you live right now?
So I live in Horsham, PA, Montgomery County.
And how long have you been there?
I think about a year now. A year from August, so a year and a couple months.
So do you think that you found a way to be neighborly in that short amount of time?
I guess so. I chat with my neighbor next door sometimes.
And you were
And
in like a suburb.
yeah, we are in the suburbs, and that was one of the things that I know Barnett was trying to keep. Like, she's like, doesn't want the suburbs to be abolished.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay. Um, so yeah, it's close to PA, close to the hustle and bustle, but far enough away. So
Close to Philly.
yeah, that's not bad.
So what is your neighborly duty these days?
So my neighborly duties is during the summer, when we were stuck at home, we were doing our garden. My neighbor was doing some of her gardening, so we would swap our veggies and swap ideas on how to keep everything, pest free, or if one thing was not doing so good, what they usually did to keep that plant alive. I thought it was fun. Um, and then I had a lot of flowers in the garden in the front. So I made a vase for inside here for the fall. And then I gave one of them to her because she wasn't feeling good for the last few weeks. So yeah, she, I guess, hasn't been feeling good, but I'm not very nosy in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the ambulance outside a couple times. So
You have?
yeah, but I'm not going to go knocking on her door. So
Yeah,
whenever
but
she
like the flowers is nice.
Yeah, so I gave her a thing of flowers the one day, and she was, tickled with joy about that. And
Oh.
every time she comes out, I just say, "How you feeling?" Seeing if she opens her can of worms, but
Ah,
hasn't
that is
really yet.
really sweet.
Yeah, so that's
Checking in with
neighborly,
your
neighborly.
neighbors.
Yeah, checking in with the neighbors is good. Um, she's not really old, old, so that's good.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know. I guess that's pretty close to home neighborly that I am.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I do consignment sale for my son's clothes and his toys.
What is that?
And it's called Just Between Friends. It's like a franchise of consignments. So this one lady runs 4 of them in our area. One in Reading, Lancaster, Oaks, and like Lower Bucks area, so like Warminster area. And so it's a place you can sell your clothes and use baby supplies in a nice, clean, and safe area. And so their site usually says it's not just about saving money and making money, it's building a community, a group of involved, caring friends, families, and neighbors that come together to support one another for these twice a year sales in a safe, clean, organized environment. So you get clothes, toys, whatnot, for about 50 to 90% off of retail value. They're, they get inspected and everything. So you're getting supposedly good quality stuff. Not like stained clothes
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah. So I get a little bit of change from that, and then I use that to buy his clothes for the next season without having to pay like full price at the regular store because he's growing constantly. So
Yeah.
I don't want to be buying 5 pairs of pants for like 2 months for like $20 each.
All the moms listening are just like itching for more information. So we're going to put the website in the episode description.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, it takes a lot of time to do, especially if you have a lot of stuff. But it's expensive raising kids.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You got to feed them every day.
Well, besides that, it's like apparently you're supposed to put clothes on them too and entertain them with toys. So, it's frowned upon to let them sit outside and play in the dirt. I don't know.
Yeah, and your neighbors are just like through a wired fence so they can see
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, that's unfortunate.
Is that why you gave the neighbor the flowers so she would be quiet about Theodore playing in the
Yeah,
dirt? Oh,
yeah.
I see. I think this is all really great. I think it's such a good tip for our listeners of how to make a difference today is just get to know your neighbors, check in, make sure everybody's doing well, do it, safely,
Mhm.
and just put a smile on each other's faces.
Ugh.
Citizens, share what you think it means to be a citizen and a neighbor in your area by emailing me at thisjust@gmail.com, and I want to share it on the podcast. That's thisjes@gmail.com. Please share this podcast with your friends all over the country so they can learn about the positions, some history lessons, as well as current happenings, and maybe be inspired to start their own informative podcast. Jenn, do you have anything to say before we close it out?
Vote. And like Brian said, lick it twice or it won't suffice.
Yeah, she brought it back.
You should make a t-shirt of that.
Oh, wow. And you would wear it to the poll.
Well, yeah. Well,
I'm going to work on it.
No, you don't want to wear it to the poll because it won't matter.
It's about mail-in ballot.
Yeah.
Guys, it's about the naked ballot in Pennsylvania. Yeah. People didn't read the instructions. So embarrassing.
Yeah.
If you're doing mail-in ballot, we're calling it mail-in ballot, but people are dropping them off at resource centers too. You have one at the Y parking lot, right?
Yeah, at the Willow Grove Y, they have one. It's in the corner of the parking lot. It's not in the Y, so don't come in looking for it.
Which Y is this?
The Willow Grove YMCA.
There's your drop-off center.
Yep, that's one of Montgomery's county.
Make sure that you put your ballot first in the secrecy envelope. Mm-hmm. It has no personal information on that envelope. And then the secrecy envelope goes into the larger envelope, which is the one that you have to sign and date. And then you got to lick both those envelopes. Yeah,
I should probably stand with my t-shirt by the polling booth so that people make sure that they licked it twice.
You said you have a woman who just like sits there and watches it, right?
Yeah.
She's the resource person.
Yeah, they have like a security card or something there.
We're going to get her a t-shirt. This will be the first merch for Fellow Citizens podcast. The other one is going to be about the shaker that Sarah and Darren got from Chili's when they voted in 2016. And maybe I'll connect with Chili's, or I can just make this into like another t-shirt or something. But the shaker says, "I vote for another presidente."
Oh, I need that one. I definitely need that one.
Oh boy, make it with your Cricut machine.
Oh yeah.
You'll get like half the profits at least.
Sweet.
At least.
Sweet. We whipping those out like crazy.
Yeah. So we already have 2 pieces of merch for Fellow Citizens podcast.
Look at that.
Thank you so very much,
You're
Jenn,
welcome.
for talking to us about your district representatives for Congress. This has been your friend Jess. Jenn, will you lead us out?
Yeah, let's not screw this up like Brian did. Should we do a countdown?
No, I haven't been doing it together because there's a time lapse with the video. So are you okay doing it by yourself?
All right, I guess so. Oh, now?
Yeah.
I'll see you around the neighborhood. And I'm waving.